neighbor. I'm not much different from most of my neighbors here in Seacliff. However, as a family man, I feel I have a lot to be especially thankful for. My wife, Margaret, for instance. Without someone like her, the day wouldn't start very well. But without me, one member of our family wouldn't get started at all. Our son, Johnny, wants to be a forester someday. Meanwhile, he's saving up energy. He forgets that he needs education for his future, too, and that begins at 8:30 this morning. But I expect he'll make out all right. He's a good boy. And his sister, Catherine, is a good girl. She's interested in, let's see, this month I think she's decided to become an artist. However, she's also learning how to fix bacon and eggs so they taste just right. We're somewhere in the middle as far as material things are concerned. We have pretty much what we need, but our house means more to us than physical comfort and convenience. It's a home where we live both as individuals with our own interests and as members of a family, sharing those interests together. I think a lot of other families in our town live the same way. It's a good neighborhood that most of us walk through on our way to work every morning. Every street and house and tree seems familiar and friendly. And most every face, too. I've owned and managed the local drugstore for over a quarter of a century. Sooner or later, everybody comes in for medicine, a sandwich and soda, or all the latest news of Seacliff. It's a nice town. Most of the time, you wouldn't know we had nearly 3,000 people. Many go to work every day in the big city an hour away. The others carry on the usual jobs and professions nearer home. Like many places, we're a mixture of different religions, nationalities, and backgrounds. Some have a little more than others, but we all share a pretty good life. We're proud of Seacliff, and not just because we've been favored by nature. We've done something ourselves. It began not so long ago when life wasn't so good, and we weren't so proud. The recent war had left us crowded and confused. A lot of new people had moved in town to work in wartime factories nearby. Many of them stayed on when peace arrived. Many of our older residents resented these newcomers and didn't mind showing how they felt. In turn, some of the newcomers found it easy to look down on us. There was a lot of nervous tension. We weren't getting anywhere together. Each of us was trying to get somewhere else first. Our young people seemed to have nowhere to go. During the war, there'd been less time for normal family life, and so home had lost its appeal. We worried about our boys and girls, not just because they were wasting a lot of their time and sometimes their pennies in foolish games, but also because they seemed to be wasting themselves and risking their future. Some, like me, felt that more family life would solve the problem. However, we seemed unable to do much about it, because most of us thought of home just as a place where we could hide from the world and its troubles. But we couldn't keep the world out, nor our families in. We forgot what our children looked like. And more important, we didn't know what they thought about, how they felt about things. Wrapped up in our own problems most of the time, we forgot to ask. We worried occasionally about where they went and what they did. They didn't seem to have much fun, just a lot of unhealthy excitement that could lead to trouble. We seemed to have failed them in some way. But how? We still had a home, I thought. As a matter of fact, one night about a year ago, I wasn't so sure. I was tired and looking forward to a good dinner with Margaret. I could usually depend on her to lighten my cares. But she was also rushing out that evening to some meeting she'd helped organize to do something about the confusion and tension in town. She wanted me to go with her, but, well, I said I'd already heard more than enough talk for one day. I'll be perfectly all right here at home alone, I told her. Don't worry about me. I felt at home without my family was just an empty house. However, I had to admit that supper looked good. In that department, Margaret's always been an expert. Apparently, she held her own with other experts at her meeting. Parents and teachers, student leaders, the minister, newcomers in town, as well as heads of the various clubs and organizations. Most every group in Seacliff was represented. Margaret told me later what happened. The minister started things off by suggesting that we needed a sort of community center, he called it, to bring together all kinds of people under more friendly and constructive circumstances. Bob Thompson, our mayor, said that such a central place might perform a big social and educational function that couldn't be handled by the individual clubs and organizations we already had. He wanted to know what everyone else thought of the idea. John Hendricks, the doctor, put in a word about our increasing sick rate. He hoped the group would include a health program in whatever plans they made. But his patients were giving him a busy evening, so he couldn't go into further details. I gathered that everyone else at the meeting was busy too, thinking up his own favorite plan. For a while, there wasn't much agreement. For instance, the garden club chairman opposed the community center idea. She thought we'd do better to dig in the soil. But Margaret insisted that everyone's interests must be considered. And finally, after Ed Roberts